Hello there everybody, this is Alex from Hardcorian Guides, bringing my guide for Transformers Devastation on Prime difficulty. Today we're doing Chapter 3, The Core. I have to have my playlist from Optimus up, so that way I can actually keep an eye on what chapters we're doing. So, this is the start of the next day when I started recording these. So you're going to see that I have auto repairs back. I have like 5 or 6. That was because I was doing some, not grinding or anything, but just getting some trophies and stuff, and I just ended up getting some auto repairs because this game just loves to give it to you on lower difficulties, I guess, or just in general, it seems like. So this chapter is another relatively short chapter. I think the next longest chapter I can think of is probably like chapter 5, maybe, if I'm not mistaken. Or even, no, maybe it's chapter 4. Chapter 7 I think is a little longish, but not too bad. So this boss, I think, was Blitzwing that we get to fight at the end of it. But now we have to chase down Thundercracker, so he's the first of our... Well, besides the Sentry Bot, I mean, out of the actual, like, Decepticons or just any other type of, like, enemy, Transformer, that, this is one of the first that you pretty much have to chase down. Eventually you have to chase down Motor Master, who, for some reason, I keep wanting to call him Motor Mouth. Just have it, I guess. I hear people call me Motormouth, so yeah, that's just where that comes from. But anyway, so yep, easy chase. And I think once again you pretty much just have to beat him down to a certain health, but you eventually do have to finish him off. I'm not too particularly sure if his health really matters, though. Actually, come to think of it. But I do think that he does run away after, like, certain amounts of damage is taken. And then he eventually just shows up here, and this is pretty much where we just finish him off at. So, you know, dodge his attacks, you know, get some time stop going, and then, of course, just shoot him, basically. That's the best you can do to him. And then now we're going to be traveling again, so I know I could, in theory, technically cut these out, but who wants to do that, right? I mean, don't you guys want to see me just drive around a little bit? Just 'cause. Also, this chapter has the infamous top-down section as well, which I do like it. I don't know why I call it infamous, but I don't think anybody really cares either way. But for me, it's definitely notorious for being a killer of sorts. Definitely the type of section that really kind of hurts to go through sometimes. And luckily, in this recording session, I actually made it out with relative ease. Also, even though it's been like a couple of years since I've actually played this game, going back to Prime difficulty really wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, mainly because, again, you can just kind of mash the dodge button. Even if you do get hit, it still actually activates, which is nice. You just basically negate the damage. Sort of like that one Bayonetta move does, where you can, you know, activate which time, like, as soon as you get hit. But I think you still take damage. I think it's less. But anyway, so we're going to be fighting some regular ground soldiers, some of the bigger ground soldiers, of course. Nothing too special with these guys. They usually just have like the same type of attack pattern. And of course, if they attack upwards, they'll sometimes attack downwards. So that's probably the most they'll ever do, is just 2 hits at once. So you fight off one and then a couple more show up. And I get pretty dang close to dying a couple of times, especially right here. Also, speaking of dying, I want to mention that this game seems to have an interesting threshold with health. So you see where my health is, like, basically at, like, the last little bit. It seems like no matter how much damage you take, no matter how critical of an attack you take, even in Prime, you never die fully. Like, it usually takes about 3 good hits to kill you, which I know for some people probably watching that don't play this game, they're probably like, what? You know, like, 3 hits to die? Like, that's ridiculous. And it's like, well, not really, because, again, you know, the time stop function just makes everything better. And plus, if you can just have things break and just have the, you know, the green cubes show up and give you health, you pretty much just get extra few hits. So it's really nice. Like, see how my health is basically at, like, lower than half? Well, even if I did get hit with, like, 1 good critical hit, I'm only gonna really get knocked down to, like, that last pixel of health. So think of it kind of like with Kingdom Hearts, if anybody's familiar with it. Think of it like with Kingdom Hearts with, like, Second Chance or Once More. I forget which one exactly it was, but basically one of the two. I was getting mixed up anyway. But yeah, think of it like that, where essentially, like, I think one of them is a critical hit and the other one's just in general. I think a combo, right? Is it Second Chance that's critical? hit. Well, and once more is probably combo then. Or vice versa. Speaking of which, I think it'd be kind of cool to eventually do a Kingdom Hearts 2. I'll do a Kingdom Hearts 2 Proud Mode run, but I've also been thinking about doing a Kingdom Hearts 2 Critical Mode run as well, because I like that type of stuff. I like the Critical Mode. I don't know if I'll ever do like a level 1 run. I mean, maybe I'll attempt it at some point in the future, but as it stands right now, I just want to do like most of the main guides first, and then start doing like challenge runs later, which I do have a few that I have ideas for, but for right now, I'll just stick with just main difficulty and just beating difficulties rather than anything too specific. So, yep, first fight right there. These are the bombshells, the red bombshells that eventually explode on you. They're easily taken out with gunshots, but you could also just essentially just avoid them. You could hit them and then just like dodge away before they explode, but... And I'm not sure if they actually damage other combat. Yeah, they do. Actually, well, hold on. I said actually like twice. I forgot. In the last chapter, they do show up in the turret section. I forgot about that. So, yeah. Anyway, so this part right here, there are 2 different directions to go. You'll see like 2 different mini markers or 2 waypoints on your map. You only really need to go to just one of them because you have to go get this, you know, big-ass energy type thing. Hold on, my thing is not doing what it normally should be doing, so, yeah. Usually it moves the cursor over, so that way I can just, like, keep an eye on when the video is close to ending, but, yeah. So, with this red brick thing here, you could essentially throw it at the enemies. I recommend just not bothering because it's just a waste of time for the most part, and I do miss. It doesn't do enough damage to really make it worthwhile. But there is a thing you could also do with the ground soldiers that show up later, like the big hammer ground soldiers, which are actually some of my favorite enemies, to be honest with you. They are annoying as hell, but they're definitely, in my opinion, one of the more cooler, just really cool type of guys. Speaking of which, I know it's just out of random, but wouldn't like a new Transformers fighting game with just like, just any type of, you know, Transformers be just kind of cool as hell? Just saying. Just throwing that out there. No particular reason, just would like to see that actually. That'd be kind of cool. But yeah, so with these big guys, they can sometimes actually slam the hammer onto the explosive. I think it's Energon, isn't it? Or something else. Well, anyway, I forgot. But regardless, they could hit it and blow up. And with the explosive thing here, the explosive brick, I can't remember if it can break shields or not. I don't think so. I want to say no. But yeah, this part is kind of hard only because of the fact that the camera is stuck on being on top. That doesn't really make it too much more difficult because most of this game is handled about the same way either way, and it's pretty much fine-tuned enough to where it's not too bothersome. Like, I'm not trying to blame the camera, I'm just saying that because of being top-down, it does make it harder to see certain potential attacks incoming. But granted, who needs vision when you're playing Transformers and you're mashing the dodge button, right? Who needs it? But yeah, this little section here can be a little bit annoying to go through on consecutive playthroughs because it's one of those things that does kind of slow you down just a little bit, but it's not too bad. Like, you only need to get one. You don't need to get both, which is nice. But you can pick your direction, so I just always go the downward direction or right for Bumblebee's where he's facing. So that's usually the direction I pick because the other one in the other direction is like higher up, so I don't bother with going like too high up just to grab it. I don't mess with it. Also in this area is going to start spawning some of those chests that are hidden inside that purple shielding cases, and with those, of course you can do rush attacks or you just throw the explosive at them. I do a ultimate attack right there if anyone was wondering. If anybody couldn't see what was actually going on, that's what pretty much happened. I just did an ultimate, did a nice bit of damage. Because this section, I think, only spawns like 2 waves of giant hammered ground soldiers, as far as I'm concerned. I believe it was 2 waves. And they may be a little intimidating and maybe a little aggressive, but as long as you keep your wits about you and you just kind of just, you know, keep on that dodge button, they pretty much just get knocked down relatively easy. Like the most they can do is just annoying little spin attacks that, you know, frankly just can catch you off guard. But other than that, there are a lot of they can be kind of fun to fight. But yeah, you know, the other thing too with them is they're just relatively tankier than most. They just have a giant health pool, and it's funny because I was, you know, complaining about that in the last guide about like, oh, you know, I don't like how games just give you giant health pools and they call that a difficulty, but here they do it. Like almost everything is just, you know, everything I'm mostly complaining about in the last guide, I'm basically just talking about here and how it works, and it's just, I don't know. I mean, even then, still, like, I don't think like having giant health pools is still the best of difficulties. I do much prefer more enemies, and I do prefer more aggressive enemies. That's more my speed. It's just I don't think upgrading the health is still the best, but I don't mind it in Transformers mainly because I feel like Transformers just handled it well enough. I feel like Platinum has been around the block enough to really be able to handle that type of stuff. So. Yeah, again, I'm not throwing shade toward Lollipop Chainsaw. I hate having to repeat myself, but I just feel like I have to sometimes, just in case. To get a clear description across that, like, I don't hate it. I'm just saying that its hard mode isn't what I would consider a very hard, or even a very good, very hard mode, unfortunately. But, you know, hey, that's fine. You know, it's whatever. But for Transformers, even though like most of the stuff can be relatively easy to deal with because of, you know, the mashing, the dodge, and they give you a lot of options to handle their game, I still think it's, even if it's not what I would consider amazingly difficult, you can get caught off guard. You definitely can get caught off, and especially like with stuff like that, which I will admit was kind of cool still, where I just, you know, leapfrogged right over it, right over Starscream and just had the missiles go through. But yeah, I got blasted right there, but luckily for me, I had an auto repair kit, so it made everything easier. I mean, one day, actually, I was about to say this, but I was about to say, like, maybe one day I could just go through Lollipop and just do a no-nick ticket run and try that out, make it actually harder. But yeah, at that point, like, that would probably be the only way to really make it harder, is just to pretty much just get rid of healing items and just get rid of anything essentially that allows you to sort of break the game, I guess. Sorry. Not really, they're not really game breaking. They're more so akin to just making the game a little bit easier. And that probably was what it really was that made the game much more easier. Well, not probably, but I do feel like it was. With Transformers, I mean, even having auto repair kits, I still don't feel like it really matters. Because I just restart the checkpoint. And I just do the fight again, but this time just try not to get hit. I mean, that could just be a case of just skill level. You know, like just, or I don't even know if I really should call it skill level, because of the fact I just mashed the dodge button. But, you know, I guess at that point it's mostly just like game knowledge and just mashing button type thing that really kind of makes Transformers a little bit on the not so hard side. I mean, I think the most hardest part of this game is probably just how aggressive enemies are. That could potentially scare off some people from actually wanting to do Prime difficulty, but I'll tell you this right now, guys. Prime certainly isn't like that scary or really even that bad. It's just more so like huge amounts of game knowledge, and plus, if you want to make the game easier on Prime, you could just, in theory, just do what you do with Bayonetta, where you just use items. So that right there just essentially makes the game just a tad bit easier. And the other thing, too, is being able to handle the aggressiveness, which, of course, I keep mentioning it. I sound like a broken record, but mashing the dodge button essentially just makes it to where that doesn't really affect you. Granted, if you wanted to make the game more difficult, you could just never buy those moves, and that way you never have to worry about mashing. Then it would just come to an actual level of skill required to play. So, not really required, but, you know, it would actually come to a skill that would basically just definitely take more skill, basically what I'm trying to say. So, if you tried a completely new game and you got Prime difficulty and you just didn't buy the moves, the actual move lists themselves, and you could probably make the game. I think it would probably be harder, yeah, for sure. But we'll talk about that probably like in Chapter 7 or something when we're discussing how hard the game actually is. even if the game isn't like incredibly impossible, like even though it's probably, you know, the least difficult out of most, or one of the more least difficult games out of Platinum games, it's still a damn good solid game. So this part right here is pretty fun, actually. It doesn't last too long, though, because Blitzwing himself actually takes quite a bit of damage. And just shooting him just seems to do a lot of damage anyway. And plus, you can use the other, you know, jets around the field that are shooting at you to essentially just initiate Witch Time and then just use that to your advantage. And now we actually get to fight Blitzwing on the ground. So this is where I recommend using loudspeakers, because Blitzwing, he may not seem like it, especially on the bridge when he was just being kind of a doofus and relatively easy to beat, but Blitzwing himself, like on ground, can actually be a little bit more hard. For sure, like no doubt, because he had a lot of attacks that are just extremely quick and precise. So especially that charging attack there that he does, that drill charging attack that looks like the drill thing from Sonic Colors. I don't want to play Sonic Colors again. Fuck. But anyway, so most of what I do is just loudspeaker and then punch him a few times, get vehicle strikes, and then afterward just, well, now I ultimate, because I had the chance to. Might as well get some damage off him and, you know, get some health back from the trees around me, which is always kind of nice. I actually ended up restarting the checkpoint because I actually used an auto repair kit, and I said, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to use a repair kit on freaking Blitzwing. So I wanted to fight him as legit as possible. That's what I wanted to do. Now, these little missile things are kind of hard. They're easy to avoid. It's just they're hard for some reason to get the Witch Time off of because they're so rare for him to really do most of the time. Also, when you use loudspeaker when an enemy is in transformed mode, like vehicle mode, you can basically knock him out of it. Some. I don't know about all of them, but for the most part, you can knock him out of it, which is nice. But yeah, just loudspeaker his ass, and then, yeah, just, you know, Humpty Dumpty leapfrog his ass, I guess. That's the most for that. Also, when you're getting comboed, like when you're getting like 3-hit comboed, usually at the end of that don't be scared. If you're getting comboed, don't be scared. The best I can tell you is just keep bashing that dodge, and then eventually, like after like the 3rd hit, they go down. So anyway, that's the end of chapter 3, and I'll see you guys in the next chapter, which is Possession. So take care, everybody.